Welcome back to Royals Weekly. I am your host, Marcus Mead, and joining me as always, the human form of that feeling you get when you haven't brushed your teeth in too long. You know that. It's kind of like somehow it's wet and dry at the same time. I don't know
What
what's
did
going
I
on.
do to
My
you?
brother Mike.
What did I do to you? All right, that wasn't
not a bad-
designed to make me feel good.
I didn't say that was a bad thing. I didn't say it was bad. There was no value
come
judgment in
on.
there. My brother is an excellent man, and he is my best friend, and I love him very much. Just in case
I'm
you
awesome,
didn't know.
in a sense. I mean, I'm not that
In
great.
a sense, has he done bad things? Many,
Sure,
some of which we don't
sure,
speak about anymore.
Sure. Mostly
But, it happens.
self-destructive, except for that one time.
Except for that one time.
Sorry, Helen.
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah. We remember Helen.
If you're out
I
there.
will remember you. Mike and I are just carrying on what we did last night, which was just joke around and have a bunch of fun, and we decided to carry it over to the episode, I guess. On this week's episode, we'll look back at what was the Royals' week in Cactus League play, because they played a full slate of games last week. So we'll look back at those. We'll do our first roster projection of the season. A lot of people have been out there doing roster projections. We haven't done one yet, not because we aren't interested. We're just lazy. And so we'll also include, because we like to one-up people, though, we're going to include projected lineups against righties and lefties as well in our Spotlight segment. So make sure you're tuning in for the Spotlight segment. And then we're going to preview this week's spring training action, where we really just talk about like things we want to see from the team in this next week. I do have to remember before we dive into the action to remind you, you got to subscribe to that Royals Weekly Substack. What cool stuff is coming out on that Substack? I mean, it's amazing. I put out an interesting thing on MJ Melendez and Jac Caglianone today. Mike and I put out a really good episode on Thursday, midweek episode for just paid Substack subscribers. It's $5 a month. You're going to start getting 2 extra episodes every week because Mike's going to come out with an episode on Fridays where he's talking about like gambling lines and previewing the weekend series, which never gets previewed because the pitching is not out yet. You know, he's going to dig into some deeper stuff. So you're going to get 2 extra episodes for that $5 a month, plus the once a week written content and some additional content as time allows us to do that. So make sure you're subscribing, royalsweekly.substack.com. It's $5 a month and you get so much more. I'm telling you. You're going to want more of these funny little jokes that we have going all the time. I also have to remind you that Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting in 2025. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, Bet Online is your ultimate game day companion. With the largest selection of odds on everything from the NBA, college basketball, NHL to UFC, Bet Online continues to be your number one sports betting source. For every three-pointer to hat trick, BetOnline has you covered with odds, stats, and more for every game, every play, and most importantly, every win. BetOnline, the game starts here. Mike, do we have any roster news this week?
We have no roster news this week, which is good news.
Which is good news. Good news that there's no roster news. Although I will say some guys who have gotten hurt are sort of in the process of coming back. I think Carlos Estevez has thrown a couple bullpens now. Alec Marsh faced live hitters for the first time today. So you're seeing some guys, especially pitching injuries, work their way back. It's looking like James MacArthur might be down for quite a while at this point, I think. And so we'll see on how that ends up. But I think Dairon Blanco also is getting in some action as well, maybe taking some cuts in the cage. Looks like he might be back in the next week or so. So good to see that. Getting some guys back from injury, hopefully here in the next week and a half. On the field last week, the Royals made a good showing of it, going 5-2 in their 7 games, bringing their overall record to 10-6, which of course all that means nothing. Mike, what did you see out of the game action last week that caught your eye or that stood out to you?
Well, not much because I didn't get to watch a whole lot of it. I did get to see part of the game today. I'm going to go back and finish the rest of it when we're done here. But the big thing that I've noticed kind of over the last stretch is the offense is looking like some guys are picking it up a little bit. Some of the defensive stuff, Cole Reagans came out and had a really good start as well. My son seems to be stomping on the floor.
Okay,
upstairs.
I'm like, I didn't know what I was hearing there, but
like a good time.
Okay, good. I'm glad that's what it is and not something else.
My whole home is falling down.
That's what it sounds like.
But no, yeah, I've actually been really satisfied with what we've seen from the guys that I feel like are going to be on the 26 man coming up. You know, the starting pitching has looked okay with the exception of 1 or 2 bad looks here or there. And the offense has really started going. There's a couple of things, and I'll talk about most of them later, but one of the other things I'm kind of keeping an eye on is Vinny Pasquantino. Vinny is a notoriously slow starter to the season, and so I would like to see him be a little bit more hot coming out of spring so that we don't see him drag down the lineup for the first few weeks like he usually does. But other than that, yeah, been really happy with what I've seen so far.
Yeah, I think it's been just tightening up all the time. I think a couple guys who came out hot have slowed down a little bit, and some guys who started slow have picked it up a little bit. Stuff you're going to see in spring training. It's nice to see them start to whittle the people in camp down. So they've assigned quite a few players to minor league camp at this point. So you're going to see a higher concentration of major league players in those games, and so we're going to get to see more from guys like more of a lineup that looks like a opening day lineup from the Royals occasionally, which is great to see. I think it's going to be an interesting look to get India up there ahead of Bobby Witt Jr., Vinny Pasquantino, Salvador Perez, Michael Massey, MJ Melendez, to have that lineup in place where now it starts with somebody who's a little bit more of an engine up there, who's a little bit more of a table setter in India. I think we haven't even really seen what that will really look like yet. And yet, you're going to start seeing it in the next couple of weeks because we're 2.5 weeks out from opening day. And it's time to start seeing what it will look like come game time. We had some strong performers, Mike. We had a good week. What was your strong performer for last week?
Well, he's the guy that maybe we've been, I don't know if I say most critical, but very critical of in the past. MJ Melendez came in with a new formulated
I've been far more critical of Hunter Renfroe and many others, honestly.
But no, I've been very critical of MJ Melendez and very skeptical, just to be honest with you. The reworked swing thing to me is, what is it? It's the last hope of a desperate man, a desperate fool at the end of his pitiful rope. That's all I can think about. When somebody says, I'm completely overhauling my swing, I go back to the great movie Liar, Liar, starring Jim Carrey, and I go, that's a desperate fool at the end of his pitiful rope. All right?
Okay, I made a Liar, Liar reference yesterday when it was announced that Xavier Worthy was
Stop
arrested.
Breaking the Law, asshole?
Yes.
I put that out on... I don't remember if it was Threads or on...
It must have been, because I put it out on Twitter.
Okay, I think I put it out on Threads or something. I can't remember. But no, I didn't see yours.
Think alike. Great minds think alike.
All I could think was, stop breaking the law, asshole. Anyway, MJ Melendez. I still don't know, because right now the numbers are looking very good. 6 for 16 this past week. 1 double, 2 triples, 4 RBI. Here's the things that scare me. No walks, 4 strikeouts. Okay? Now, that's striking out about a quarter of the time. That's not fantastic, but you see the average a little higher. You see the power numbers there. That could play for MJ Melendez. Now, has that matched what I've seen with the eye test, watching some of those at bats? Some of the at bats, and I've only seen a handful, look very uneven. Sometimes it's like, oh yeah, I like what he did there. Sometimes it's like, that's MJ Melendez from last year. And so I still have a lot to look at, but guess what? MJ Melendez has the most at-bats in this spring training, and there's a reason why. They want to see, one, if this new swing is going to work, if he's going to be a viable option, how much he should be playing, and in what spots. And so, yeah, we talked about what are you going to be looking forward to this moving forward. MJ Melendez and how much he hits is going to be huge for me.
If you need a hint that Mike doesn't read the Substack that I put out, he just gave you one right there, because I mentioned in the Substack this morning that I loved that MJ Melendez is getting the most plate appearances of anybody in the Royals spring training, because two things. One, I think it's important for the Royals to get that information to see like what's he going to look like against Major League hitting or Major League pitching and all that, but also he needs to continue to get used. I think what you're seeing with those uneven plate appearances is just him getting used to using that new swing against Major League pitching. Like it's not a night and day thing. You can't just flip a switch and all of a sudden new swing engaged. It's going to take some time for him to get comfortable and to get used to it in the way it is. Because up till now, it's just been him hitting in a cage with it, right? Which is nice and all, but it's nothing like facing actual pitching and actual Major League pitching. And so, it's nice to see that the production is there. I put out some red flags in the Substack from earlier today from MJ Melendez. So if you want that, subscribe, $5 a month. If you want to go take a look at some more detailed, in-depth look at MJ's performance so far in spring training. But it is one of those things that it's better to have results than not at this point, but you can't really count on those results. You can't trust them because they're so small sample at spring training, all the sort of caveats that always go with it. But it is nice to see him have a successful week, and hopefully he can start to really feel more comfortable in that new swing facing Major League hitters.
Well, and I want to say one thing. Really, it's a reiterate thing, because you've brought it up in the past. You brought it up last year and the year before that with him specifically. MJ Melendez doesn't have to be good at hitting that high fastball. He just has to be good at not swinging at it. Mm-hmm. And if he can if that's always going to be a bad spot for him, even with the new swing, teach him to lay off that and teach him to force pitchers down in the zone a little bit more, and then he can feast on those.
Because here's the thing, no matter how good a pitcher's command is, he cannot live in the top third with fastballs and place them there every single time. Nobody is that good with their command who throws over 90. So you might be able to go find an old timer who throws 80 and can, maybe locate that well, but it's just not that easy to locate stuff this good that well. And so if he can force them to bring the ball down into where he likes to hit it, he'll have a lot better chance. And that can include fouling it off with 2 strikes. That can include just not swinging at it early in counts. Both are important. But we've seen him do some things with some, fastballs inside and maybe a little bit up this spring training, which might be encouraging. But we also have to see just a larger sample. It's going to take a month and a half into the season before we can start saying, yeah, that swing change did or did not have a big impact. My strong performer for this week is somebody everybody's going to want to be talking about after today. Jac Caglianone. Yeah, I went there. Jac Caglianone only got 4 at-bats. He did have more plate appearances than that because he did walk a significant number of times, but he went 3 for 4 with 1 double, 2 home runs, and 3 walks. He had a double and a home run today off Aaron Savali and Nestor Cortez.
Both major league pitchers, by the way.
Both major league pitchers. Now, I will say Savali is about 107 years old. His fastball couldn't break glass at this point. And Nestor Cortez, I think he's may not be long for the major leagues either. But Jac Caglianone doing some impressive things, and you have to be impressed by it. I mean, it's nothing to sneeze at when you haven't even played a full season of professional baseball, and you jacked one 444 feet off Aaron Savali today. Like, that's not nothing. And what's interesting to me is, and Lesky echoed this, but I was thinking it last night. Was it last night? I think it was last night. Last night, Caglianone got into a game late, and he only got like 1 plate appearance. And in that plate appearance, he worked a walk. And it was actually that walk that I watched, and it was against the Giants. I watched it, and that was like the most impressive thing I've seen from him. Yeah, it's really impressive that he can hit the ball so far, but I already knew that coming into it, right? I already knew about the power. The question is he going to make swing decisions that are going to allow him to access that power as he moves higher and higher up the minor leagues? I watched him have a very patient plate appearance against somebody who's probably a double or triple A pitcher. And it was like, yeah, there was 1 pitch he swung at that was outside the strike zone that he shouldn't have. I think it was the first pitch. But after that, he just worked his way back into the count, got up 3-1, ends up taking a walk, right? Like, and he just took his walk, went down to first. It was really a professional plate appearance, and you love to see that from him, because if he can do that, then yeah, his ascent is going to be faster than normal. Is he going to break camp with the team? No, he is not. Is it weird and awful to expect that? Yeah, it is, because don't put that kind of pressure on him, right? That's weird stuff. But it's not impossible that he rises faster than others might think, or than you might think. And that is it outside the realm of possibility that he comes up midseason to provide some much needed offense for the Royals? It's not outside the realm of possibility. Still, manage those expectations just a little bit, but he had a great, great week this last week.
And you know what? I'm pretty sure that home run today came on a 3-2 count as well.
It did.
The deeper he works into counts, the better of an indicator that is for Jack.
Mike, not everybody could go out there bombing Aaron Savali all over the park. Who was your weak performer for the week?
It felt like everybody could.
Today everybody pretty much could.
But. My weak performer for the week was Carlos Hernandez, and I put him up here because I feel like there's got to be a conversation on Carlos Hernandez. He is a big spring for him, and he is not.
We're going to have that conversation during the spotlight segment. Yeah. So yeah,
well, we talked about like why it's such a big spring for him specifically because he's out of options. And he hasn't shown much in the last year or two. And so 4 innings pitched, 4 hits, 2 earned runs, 2 walks, and 2 strikeouts this past week. That's not spectacular. And then if you look at the whole spring, 6 earned runs and 7 innings pitched for Carlos Hernandez. I don't know that he's ever going to figure it out with the secondaries. And the fastball, although he can, it's hard, although the velo is high, the outcomes on it aren't great either. And so I don't know if Carlos Hernandez is making this team. And that would be, to me, I always said Carlos Hernandez is stuff, a good team with a good, it kind of makes me sad. If Carlos Hernandez comes up through this system, this pitching development system, I think he has a much different opportunity than what he ended up with mostly developing in the last system, where he basically jumped a whole level and came up way too soon.
Yeah, we actually, spoiler alert, we're going to project Carlos Hernandez to make the team right now, but he is definitely the last guy. He's hanging by a thread. Let's just say that. He's hanging by his fingernails to this roster at this point. I watched the game today. He got in. I think he threw 2 innings maybe. Wasn't great. Wasn't terrible, but there are little things he doesn't do. And when you're like the eighth guy out of the bullpen, teams aren't like, oh, we're comfortable with you like not holding runners. No, if you're going to be the eighth guy out of the bullpen, you better hold runners. Like he didn't hold a runner today. The guy took second standing up. It was like Mark Canha too. We're talking somebody who does not have a ton of speed, and yet Hernandez just isn't even paying any attention to him. And so, that's not going to help when you're fighting for a last spot out of the bullpen. My week performer for this week is Nick Lofton. We talked about him having a hot start. I like Lofton to make the roster because of what he sort of represents as an offensive profile, can play lots of different positions. But you remember he hurt his wrist a while back. And I'm wondering now if that's not having an impact on what he's doing on the field. 1 for 6 this week, 0 extra base hits, 0 walks, 2 strikeouts. That one hit was kind of a soft line drive over the shortstop that he had today, like 86 miles an hour or something like that. I wonder if his wrist isn't giving him trouble. He's having a difficult time getting a nice full swing on the pitch. But what can he do? He wants to make this team so bad. He can't be like, no, I can't play for a while, because if you do that, guess what? You're not making the team. And so, he's in a tough spot. I hope he's able to work through that and starts hitting again. Mike, with this successful week that the Royals had, what was your theme coming out of this week? I've never seen it before.
Yeah, it's we like to do song lyrics or movie quotes, things like that. And so I went with a song lyric from a guy I've been listening to a little bit recently. His name's Charles Wesley Godwin. He's got.
He sounds like a dude you would listen to. I got to be honest with you.
He very much is.
A lot of the dudes you listen to have 3 names. What's that about?
Yeah. I don't know. Don't ask me. So do most of the people who kill presidents, right?
Yeah.
The song, I don't even know the name of the song actually right now, but the message of the story of the song is, something is flooding, your family's farm is flooding, and you're trying to get back to help your parents out in the flood situation, and there's water going over the bridge. And the idea is, would you go over the theme is, would you go over the bridge for your blood? Would you risk it for the people that you love, right? And that's what I was thinking about. Like, well, what we had a team last year make a very unexpected run to the playoffs, right? You were hanging your hopes and prayers on basically the guys that you had before last year and 2 veteran pitchers that both had question marks coming in. And so it worked out well, made the playoffs. That was great. I think to move past that, it takes a lot. It takes a lot of like deciding you're going to do something for this group of people that maybe you wouldn't have ever done. Like, hey, I'm going to be Michael Garcia and I'm going to go play center field, even though I've never played center field. And I'm going to really embrace that. I'm going to buy into that. I'm Jonathan India. I've been playing second base pretty much the whole time I've been in Major League Baseball. I'm going to get traded to the Royals, be this thing they need to be in the leadoff spot, and play left field if I have to. Sometimes it takes that sacrifice to not just for the team aspect, but to take that step forward. And there's going to be a lot of guys on this team who have to do that if they're going to move to the next level.
Right. And I think there's this weird ethos that we as fans have that's like, well, yeah, you're making millions of dollars. Go out there, play where the hell they want you to play or something like that. But you got to remember what Jonathan India is doing, what Michael Garcia is doing when they do something like that is they're sort of saying like, I'm willing to embarrass myself out there because I know that is a potential outcome. Like, I've never played this position before. I know how baseball works. I know that on any given night, the ball could get hit to me and I could be the one who causes us to lose the game. Right? Like, and I could be the butt of every joke for the next week. I could be, all that sort of stuff. And they're willing to go out and do that because they want success in the type of way that makes you willing to face embarrassment, right? Which I think is actually a pretty profound thing, Yeah, my theme for this week comes from an unexpected source. I went to poetry, y'all. This is from Robert Frost.
The one poet we've all heard of.
Buddy, I took a class in Renaissance poetry. I'll tell you all about a bunch of poets.
I said we all, not you. We all. We all know who Robert Frost is. Outside of that, our favorite poets are cereal box characters.
Yeah, that's true. But I forget the name of this poem, but this is a verse everybody knows. I feel like everybody's heard this verse. Um, it's a poem kind of about taking a break while you're going on a path, and the last verse sort of reminds him that he has further yet to go. It goes like this: "The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep." And that's just how it feels in a lot of ways, right? Because it feels connected to your theme in that 86 wins is great, but 86 wins ain't the whole thing. Like, in fact, JJ Picola was talking about it on the broadcast today. Like, the goal is not make the playoffs. The goal is win the World Series, right? Like, and, to me, I always say, like, getting to 80 wins is a lot easier than getting from 80 wins to like 90 wins. Like, very, very tough, right? And so there are still miles to go here. We still have miles to go, it feels like, until the start of the regular season to me, right? Like, but also miles to go before the Royals are where they really want to be as a team.
You should have done that in your Morgan Freeman voice.
Royals Weekly is brought to you by All in Physical Therapy. You already know that All in Physical Therapy is out here getting moms shredded. But what you don't know is that our mom loved her experience there because of the personal attention she got from Tommy and the staff at All In. They guarantee a personalized one-on-one experience to suit the needs of patients recovering from total joint surgeries, sports injuries, or any kind of injury or pain.
If you got a trick hip like me, Tommy's your guy.
Which hip is the trick one?
They're both not good.
All in Physical Therapy. All in Physical Therapy is owned and operated by Tommy Freevert with locations in Blue Springs, Lee Summit, and Belton. But most importantly, they're in network for nearly all insurance providers.
In-network insurance feels like hitting a 3-game parlay.
Yeah, except it probably actually saves you more money than hitting a 3-game parlay.
Yeah, no kidding.
If you're a high school athlete recovering from injury or someone bouncing back with a brand new hip or knee, check out the best physical therapy in the KC Metro at allin-pt.com. That's ALLIN-PT.com. Or give them a call at 816-427-5300. That's 816-427-5300. We're all watching spring training, trying to see who deserves a spot on the Royals opening day roster. Well, today, we'll wade into the waters of roster projections and do our first preseason roster projection. But we're going to raise the difficulty level just a bit and put out our first 2 projected lineups as well, one for righties and one for lefties. That's a lot to do in one spotlight segment, so we're going to have to rush through some of this. We're going to motor through, Mike. A lot of fast thinking, a lot of fast answers, a lot of fast talking, okay? Mike, please read off our projected pitchers to get us started.
You just said the word fast a lot, and I'm pretty slow in multiple
everything
meanings of the word. Okay, pitchers, starters: Cole Reagans, left-hander; Seth Lugo, right-hander; Michael Wacha, right-hander; Chris Bubich, left-hander; Michael Lawrenson, right-hander.
It's Lorenzen. Also,
Lorenzen.
I will say that this is in the order of the starters as I want it to go. I'm not entirely sure that they'll go in this order, but that's the order I want them to be in.
That looks right to me. Relievers: Lucas Ursig, righty; Carlos Estevez, righty; Hunter Harvey, righty; Angel Zerpa, lefty; John Schreiber, righty; Daniel Lynch IV, lefty; Sam Long, lefty; Carlos Hernandez, righty. Just missed in this group, Alec Marsh, who we think will be in extended spring training. First live BP today for him. Noah Cameron, friend of the show, Noah Cameron, pitched today.
Went out and pitched really well.
Mm-hmm. Did very well for himself today. Evan Sisk, who's been like one of the big surprises, I think, of spring training so far. He's done himself a good job, just missed. And then Chris Stratton, who, if he just missed, is likely gone.
Yeah, that makes sense. Mike, looking at that group, how do you feel they stack up?
I think that's a solid group. Honestly, I really do. I know, the loss of Brady Singer always is going to be like a question. Okay, how do we fill that? But I'm pretty confident in how Bubich has looked as long as he can stay healthy. So I'm happy with that. The back end of that bullpen, we haven't seen Estevez much. I think you can count on him a little bit. If Hunter Harvey can come back and be something, I think I'll be mentioning an X factor in the lineup here in just a second. But Hunter Harvey, to me, is the X factor in the bullpen. It's the thing that takes this bullpen from good to great. If he can be the Hunter Harvey of 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And so that'll be the one for me. So, but other than that, I like it. I like that Lynch can give you multiple innings. I like that Zerpa can give you multiple innings. Good balance of lefty. Long, I feel like, is a guy who can get out lefties as well. Schreiber, good against righties. And so I really like the setup of this bullpen. And
Yeah, I
the
think
starters are, I think they're going to be solid.
Yeah. Yeah. And we'll talk about the starters a little bit more here in a second. But what makes me feel really good about this projected staff as a whole are the guys who aren't on it, right? Like, I feel good with the depth that exists behind this first 13. Alec Marsh, Noah Cameron, Kyle Wright, Steven Cruz. These are all guys I would feel very comfortable coming into this, into the mix here and sort of giving you quality starts or giving you quality relief appearances or whatever. Like, you're going to need more than 13 pitchers throughout the course of a season. And I think at the very least, the Royals have an additional 4 who can give them really quality major league innings. And that's just huge to me, right? Like, you can't count on the rotation being as healthy as it was last year. Probably can't even count on the bullpen being as healthy as it was last year. And so, well, healthy. I mean, they had a couple injuries to like Will Smith and Chris Stratton at different points, but we'll see. Anyway, so I'm very happy with this. It's amazing to me. I'll be interested to see sort of what the season looks like when the bullpen looks like it'll be better right away. You'll remember last year, the first couple of weeks started out great. Maybe first month and a half started out great, except for the fact that the bullpen kept blowing a game here and there that would like cost them a series. And I would be like, darn it. Like, we'll see what it looks like when they can come out and actually maybe shut something down in the later innings. Mike, do you think the starting rotation can reproduce the sort of huge success that they had last year?
I think that's probably unlikely, but I still think that it can be very good. It was very good last year. Like, Lugo throws over 200 innings. Waka does like a high for his career. Reagan's is way past his career high. Singer has probably the best full season of his career. And then you got really good things out of Alec Marsh in the first half and Michael Lorenzen.
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 You keep saying Lorenzen the wrong way every time. Like,
I know. I'm sorry. It's in my head now. It's stuck that way. So you got good stuff out of all those guys and health. I don't think that's going to happen again, whether it's Lorenzen falling off or Lorenzen. Is it Lorenzen?
Yes.
Lorenzen. Whether it's Lorenzen
tall
falling
girl.
off.
What's her name?
Health. Beverly. What's her name? Beverly. All right. I'm just going to call him M Sauce because I don't know this guy's name.
Do that. Do that.
Anyway, he's old, and there's some talk about should he be in the bullpen or the rotation. If you don't get what you got out of him, if there's some injury stuff, if Bubic can't give you 180 plus innings like almost every spot did last year, I think it could be a little bit worse. But I think the floor of this rotation is really high. And so as long as there's health, at least decent health, I think it's going to be okay.
Yes, the floor of the rotation is very high. I think the ceiling has the potential to be even higher than last year. You'd need a lot of the same things to go your way, like that did last year. You'd need like health to go your way. You'd need Lugo to make sure he's found the fountain of youth and strategically only let guys hit the ball hard when they're doing it in Kaufman, that sort of thing. Like you'd need that kind of luck.
You know what else really helped him last year? Like, there's a certain profile of lineup that Brady Singer is just terrible against lefties, power lefties. And it seemed like every time the rotation came up, he just missed that lineup and was going against one that didn't. And then when he did, he got crushed. Like when he went up, against, was it Boston? Or the Yankees. I can't remember which team it was. Just had masher lefties that killed him. But yeah, he missed out on those a lot. That's what we need. We need like,
well, here's the thing. He's not in the rotation anymore, right?
I know, but we need like some good things to happen with Lugo being in Kaufman against some of those masher lineups, things like that.
Well, here's the thing, and this is why I think it could be better, why the ceiling might be higher. I don't see Brady Singer's replacement as Michael Lorenzen. I see Brady Singer's replacement as Chris Bubic. And I think Chris Bubic can be just as good, if not better, than Brady Singer. The problem is, I don't know that he can throw 180 innings like Brady Singer did, right? He only threw 30 last year. To have him throw 180 this year would be really risking something. You'd be really pushing the bounds of what people see as like acceptable. So we'll see. Like, obviously the floor is higher, I think, but they might have to be some sort of combination of Bubic Marsh, Bubic Cameron, something like that allows you to get through the whole year. But still, it could be just as productive, if not more than last year, a little bit. I'll come with the position players. At catcher, we have Salvador Perez, Freddie Freeman. That one was real easier.
Freddie Freeman would be cool.
I always say Freddie Freeman every single time. It's wild to me.
It's okay.
It's not Freddie Freeman.
We have problems
He's
with
playing.
names, man.
Yeah, I know. He's playing first base in Los Angeles. Salvador Perez, Freddie Fermin. At first base, Vinny Pasquantino. At second base, Michael Massey and Jonathan India. At shortstop, Bobby Witt Jr. At third base, Michael Garcia. At left field, MJ Melendez. In center field, Kyle Isbell and Dairon Blanco. In right field, Hunter Renfroe. At utility position, I'm just calling it utility player, Gavin Biggio and Nick Lofton. Those are the 13 position players we have on this roster. Just missed would be Harold Castro, Joey Weimer, Nelson Velasquez, Tyler Gentry, Drew Waters, and John Rave. Mike, what in this group do you feel good about, and what do you not feel so good about?
Well, I feel pretty good about offensive production from the infield players and pretty bad about it from the outfield players. Thank you for asking. Pretty simple stuff there. Hunter Renfroe is going to be in right field some. You don't know what you're getting from MJ. You don't like what you're getting from either center field option. Maybe, with India and Massey rotating in and left, maybe that comes from there. But a lot of very lopsided lineup, no matter kind of how you cut it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I do feel good about the bottom of the roster here as compared to last year. Give me Biggio, Lofton over Hampson, Frazier last year, or even if it ends up being like Biggio, Castro, and or like instead of Lofton and Blanco, it ends up being Weimer and Castro or something like that. Any of the options that they might come up with, basically, I feel better about at the bottom of the roster than I did Frazier and Hampson last year. Not that Hampson didn't do a good job. I think Hampson more than earned the money that he was paid last year, but offensively, I think you're going to get more out of Biggio, Lofton, Castro, Weimer, any of that group, and maybe even Waters or Rave at this point, maybe even Gentry. Like, I don't know. Velasquez, he struggled quite a bit, but you might even get more out of him offensively if he's up there, right? And so the fact that the bottom of the roster has a little more strength, and we know this team loves rotation, I think it's going to be a little bit better when, Biggio and Lofton get 600 plate appearances between them than Frazier and Hampson. I don't feel great about that backup center field situation. I went over my mind again and again about like who should be the backup center fielder here. It could be Weimer. He hasn't played great this spring. He's playing better lately, I think. His swing looks a little bit better to me lately. But Blanco has so many different things he offers the team, can hit lefties, little things. Defense not great in center field, but they might be able to sacrifice that for a little bit. I just don't know. I don't have a good answer in center field right now. Mike, let's do the hard part and get to the lineups here. Give us the lineup against righties, which will probably be their opening day lineup because they'll probably face a righty from Cleveland.
Okay, Jonathan India leading off and DHing. Okay, Bobby Witt Jr. in the 2 spot playing short. Vinny Pasquantino playing first in the 3 spot. Salvador Perez behind the plate hitting 4th. Michael Massey hitting 5th and playing 2nd. MJ Melendez in left hitting 6th. Kevin Biggio in right hitting 7th. Michael Garcia hitting 8th, playing 3rd base, and hitting 9th. Kyle Isbell playing center field. On the bench, you got Fermin, Renfroe, Lofton, and Blanco.
Yes. What are your thoughts on that lineup?
Well, this is where we've talked about him so much, but I think MJ Melendez is kind of the X factor for this lineup and for this offense as the year goes on. If he can produce to anything close to like a 110 weighted runs created plus, you've got, in my opinion, an offense that can be longer, deeper, top 6 to 8 offense in the league if everybody stays healthy, especially those guys in the middle. If he doesn't, you're looking at a long stretch before you can turn that lineup over, and it could be really tough.
Yeah, if you don't recall, weighted runs created plus is just a metric that measures somebody's total offensive output. 100 is league average. 101 is 1% above league average. 110 is 10% above league average, and so on and so forth. So 110 would just be 10% above league average. If MJ Melendez can do that, that will change the outlook for this lineup significantly. I feel really good about this lineup against right-handers. We know they hit right-handers better than they hit left-handers last year. And I feel really good about this, obviously, honestly. To have Biggio down there in the 7 spot, I feel like he could produce some on-base outcomes there. I feel like Garcia could produce, if he can bounce back from last year, can maybe have some decent outcomes. We know that he played a little bit better. At least I kind of liked the combo of him and Isbell together at the bottom of the lineup. They can do some things, some interesting, tricky things down at the bottom of that lineup that I find intriguing. And so, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. But I really am more comfortable with their right-handed lineup, honestly.
Yeah, and just to layer onto that, Michael Garcia can get Isbell can catch a few hits because you have to hold Garcia on. You have to account for him in the running game and things like that. So Isbell's going to get a few hits through the infield, and that's what I kind of like too. The hit and run, the bunt. Isbell can lay down a bunt. Garcia can run. That's a very interesting combo down there to do those kind of things for a guy, for the Jonathan India, Bobby Witt Jr. corridor that's coming up
Right.
after it. So, yeah,
You
I
also
agree. I think him down there is a good idea.
you also don't feel bad about advising Isbell to take a few pitches to give Garcia an opportunity to steal because he's Kyle Isbell. You're not working through the heart of your order here. You could be like, hey, be selective. And he's smart enough of a baseball player to know when it will be important for him to be selective so Garcia has a chance to steal second and that sort of thing. Left-handed lineup. Did I read this one? No, I'll read this one. Okay, here we go. Against lefties, we have Jonathan India leading off and playing second base. Bobby Witt Jr. hitting second, playing short. Vinny hitting third and playing first base. Salvador Perez DHing and hitting fourth. Michael Massey in left field hitting fifth. Hunter Renfroe in right field hitting sixth. Michael Garcia hitting seventh and playing third base. Freddie Fermin hitting eighth and playing catcher. And Dairon Blanco hitting ninth and playing center field. That makes the bench Nick Lofton, Kyle Isbell, MJ Melendez, and I wanted to say Craig, but it is Kevin Biggio. Craig is his father. Mike, what are your thoughts on that left-handed lineup?
If MJ's not producing, they have a chance to have a long stretch of bleakness at the bottom part of this lineup because you're going Renfroe, Garcia, Fermin, Blanco, who, Fermin did some things last year, but none of that has shown the ability to be consistently good offensively. And so you really need, oh gosh, this just doesn't look good. It does not look good at all.
It looks
I know
rough,
it's against lefty. I know it's against lefties, so maybe you get some, Garcia ability to pull the ball. Maybe you get some of that stuff. Blanco is going to be critical at the bottom of this lineup, just snatching up single runs any way that he can when this happens. And it looks like, to me anyway, they're likely to be a worse offense against lefties this year again as well.
Oh, yeah, that definitely seems likely, in part because they don't have a rotation mate for center field that looks like it can really do damage against left-handers. I mean, Blanco is what they got, but you would want somebody who has more of a track record hitting left-handed pitching. But let me tell you the conundrum that comes up with this lineup. If you are projecting a roster where Hunter Renfroe makes the team, he has to start in right field or DH or somewhere. He has to start against left-handers because there is no chain of reasoning or logic that keeps Hunter Renfroe on the team but doesn't ever start him. like there isn't one. And so if you're projecting him to make the team, I went back and forth. Originally, when I wrote this, I had Nick Lofton starting in right field instead of Hunter Renfroe. Honestly, I'm not sure that wouldn't be the better lineup.
It might be the better lineup, but if he's on the roster, he has to be doing this.
He has to because he has absolutely no value.
$6.5 million on the bench when he has no bench value.
Right. He has no bench value. He can't come in and pinch run. He's not a defensive replacement. I mean, he's maybe a pinch hitter who could maybe give you an extra base hit, but nobody has those anymore on a bench because the spots are too valuable. You can't give a bench spot to a guy who you're just counting on to come in and get a hit.
There's no more Matt Stairs.
He's gone. He's gone. I knew what you were thinking.
Matt Stairs, baby.
I saw your face and I knew what you were thinking.
No value except for swinging that pine.
There are, God bless him, loved watching him play. There are no more Matt Stairses in Major League Baseball, and there probably never will be again, right? Because until they expand rosters or something, because the bench spot is too valuable to keep somebody like Hunter Renfroe there. And so if he's going to be on the team, which we're projecting him to make the roster, he's got to play, right? And it's not outside the realm of possibility. He bounces back in some small way and can maybe put up 100 weighted runs created plus against the lefties. That's not outside the realm of possibility. And so we'll see. We'll see what they do with him. But he's the one keeping me up at nights when I'm thinking about this roster. Royals Weekly is brought to you by Eric Oxer of West USA Realty. Phoenix has all of our favorite things: year-round golf, year-round baseball, and Eric Oxer of West USA Realty. Whether you want to buy your dream retirement home or just stay a while and catch spring training, Eric can help you find the perfect house fast. We've known him for 30 years and trust him far more than we even trust each other.
I had the notion to trust you once. Then I caught you trying to steal my catalytic converter.
Hey man, I needed it for some scratch for something. I had a deal going somewhere. Eric does long-term rentals for the Snowbird crowd and home sales and purchases for those who want to stay a while longer. Are you a baseball player or parent who needs a place in the Phoenix area? Eric will help you find the perfect spot. You want to spend your days shanking golf balls into the great beyond? Eric knows the golf scene like Mike knows drive-through ordering etiquette. There is such a thing, people. Find Eric online at ericoxer.com. If you can figure out how to spell his name, it's ERICKAUXIER.com. Or just shoot him a text at 480-383-9745. That's 480-383-9745. Even if you're just curious what he can do for you, he's 100% no pressure, one of the best people we know.
And he knows that when you're in line at the drive-thru, it is bad form to strike up a chat with the person taking the money.
Yeah, that is just awful. The Royals continue Cactus League play this week with games against the Guardians, Diamondbacks, Mariners, Padres, Angels, Guardians again, Reds, and Rockies. There'll be a split squad game on Saturday, and the spring breakout game will happen on Friday with the Royals' top prospects taking on the Diamondbacks' top prospects. That sounds like fun. Mike, what are you looking for from the Royals this week?
I'm looking at MJ Melendez to continue to get the most at-bats, to see what he has a chance of bringing us this year offensively. I want to see Michael Garcia continue to play in center field. I think that brings an interesting wrinkle to something if he could be your backup center fielder. And then, like everybody else, I want my candy. I want to see Jac Caglianone hitting bombs into right field, doing that Arizona sun dance, you know?
Ooh. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been fun
For
to
those
watch
of you
it.
watching on YouTube, you're seeing some dancing. Yeah, everybody wants. I love that you described it as candy because that is what it is. Everybody wants that Cags video out there just crushing rockets. Yeah, I want to see Nick Lofton bounce back this week. I think he represents the best option they have for that last roster spot. So I'd like to see that. I want to see Joey Weimer continue to progress because although we didn't put him on the roster, if he keeps progressing the way that he has, I think they might actually feel comfortable with putting him in center, making him the fourth outfielder, and that sort of thing. He has shown a lot of patience at the plate. He's taking a lot of walks this spring, which is great. You would love that in the 9 spot from him. But he is also getting a few more hits here and there, finding his way with his swing, which is all janked up. And so hopefully we see a little bit more from him. And I think I kind of just want to see what will look like mostly the opening day lineup. Like I want to see that lineup play a time or two together just for my own edification. Any interest, Mike, in that spring breakout game?
Oh, yeah. Love those types of minor league showcases and things like that. I remember we went to one way back in the day that Moose and Haas played in when they had that fantastic farm system. So, yeah, I love the breakout game. Mazzucato is going to be a part of that. And by word of our good buddy Preston Farr, there's been a velo jump possibly for him over the offseason. So I would be interested in seeing that. And just seeing all the minor league guys. I like it's just about everybody in the top 30 is going to be available in this game. And so I'm interested to see any of them that I don't often get a chance to see.
Yeah, there are plenty of prospects we haven't seen play in spring training, and I want to see them. I want to see Blake Walters. I want to see Hero Wyatt. I want to see, all these guys play. I want to see Austin Charles. I want to see, there's just a lot of interesting and intriguing prospects in the Royals system. We talk about them a lot on our midweek episodes where we have a section devoted specifically to minor league baseball prospects and that sort of thing. But I want to see them because I'm interested in that too. We'll end this week's episode like we end every episode with our Just About Outside segment, where we talk about something that's interesting to us outside the world of baseball. Last week, I had the best one ever with the Kohler Vale smart toilet ad. I don't know if any of you saw it. I don't know if you went and watched it, but if you haven't, go watch it. It's the most brilliant thing ever. And going back to that for 1 second. The thing that makes it so funny, I'm sorry, it's hilarious. I keep getting this ad. I've gotten like 50 times since I said this last week. The thing that makes it so funny is they don't tell you what the ad is for until the very end when they say, Vale, a smart toilet from Kohler. And it's like, before that, it's all like Vales and very serious and earnest people. And then they throw out like, by the way, this is a toilet ad.
It's a crapper.
And you can't tell the whole time because there's a thing sitting there, but it doesn't really look like a toilet, right? Like,
we were just talking about a crapper.
Yeah, don't worry, guys. We're just talking about a toilet here.
Yeah.
Nothing too serious like we made
We
it
thought
out
you
to
were
be.
selling like smart AI chips or like
or diamonds or something.
yeah.
No.
World class healthcare. Nope. It's a
No.
toilet that
This is something to take a shit
if
in.
you think about water shooting up your butt, it does. It happens.
It does.
Okay?
It happens. It happens. All right, that's all I have to say. Mike, what's been going on in your world for the last week?
Oh, you're not going to do yours? You're not
No, I'm going
one
to
you
do
gotta
mine. I'm just going to do it after you.
All right. And I was like, oh, nope, Kohler Smart Toilet took it again. I'm talking parks, people. Parks. Why don't we use them more? I love parks. Okay, but and there's a large park in the town that I live in. It's kind of like the centerpiece of the town because there's a ton of kids in this town. But I'll go by there and there won't be anybody there, and we can sometimes go to the park 3 or 4 times in a week and never see another person there. And I'm like, what's going on here? Why aren't people using this park more? You know? So I'm really, this is my call to action, ladies and gents. Go to the park. We know the benefits of green spaces for communities and the health of individuals and all that sort of stuff. If you've got good parks, go out there and enjoy them and use them and all that sort of stuff because, yeah, we need more of them, honestly. And yeah, it's something that has benefited myself, my son, and my family a ton. And like, if I were to buy a new house, if I were to ever move, or when I move, that's something I always look for. Like, what is there a park nearby? That's what I want to know. And I did this before I even had a child, because you can do family gatherings at parks. You can do other things too. So I think parks are huge. Mark doesn't have any kids. He lives right next to a park, and so yeah, love those parks. Use them up.
Yeah, I love parks myself. One of the great joys, I took our mother, who, as you know, is very similar to the Incredible Hulk, to London back in 2019. And we were delighted to discover that the Airbnb that we had booked was right across the street from this very large, very dope park. And some of the stuff we loved doing the most was like walking through that park, and they would have like festivals and stuff in it. And so we would just like walk around these festivals. It was great. It was wonderful. Now I will say, you say that why aren't people in these parks? Go out to Loose Park on any nice day, and it will just be jam packed with people.
Oh yeah,
there's a ton of people in Loose Park all the time, which is great. You love to see that. That's how it should be, right? Like go out there and have fun. I'm talking about a TV show that I just wrapped the first season on. I believe. I think I saw an episode just a minute ago, or like before I started recording, and it felt like the end of a season episode. You know how sometimes they just feel like, I didn't check to see, but I think that was the end of the first season. It's called Dune Prophecy. For those of you who are a fan of the Dune movies,
nerds
with Timothy Chalamet. This is set in the same universe as that. And it's very good. It's insanely good. It stars this wonderful actress. I believe her name is Emily Watson. And it's just really, really, really well done. You know, it's similar to the Dune movies. Great writing. It's an HBO show, so of course the writing is good. I know what they did too. They saw the Dune IP, right? And they thought, there's Game of Thrones 2.0. Like, that's what we're doing, right? And so they've put all the sort of good writing that came with Game of Thrones and all this sort of stuff into it, and it is really, really good. I just watched the first season. It's set like 10,000 years before the Dune movies are, and so no overlap in terms of Chalamet ain't going to pop up in any of these or anything. But yeah, if you're into the sort of Dune story and Dune narrative and that sort of sci-fi world, give it a shot. It's really, really good. That's all I have for this week. That's all Mike has for this week. Thanks for joining us here on Royals Weekly, presented by Bet Online. We'll be back again next week. For those Substack subscribers, we'll be back on Thursday with another midweek episode. Until then, be good to each other.
and go Royals.